Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Found a girl's body down in West Virginia. Been in the water about a week. Looks like a Buffalo Bill type situation.
Welcome to Wake Up Heavy, the world's greatest horror movie podcast. On this episode, my weird dad and his friends will be talking about
an FBI trainee, a brilliant psychotic.
I'm here to learn from you.
Mind against mind.
What does he do, this man you seek?
Clue for clue.
I'll have you catch him, Clary.
You know who he is, don't you?
She's playing a game she can't lose.
Tell me his name, Doctor.
To find a killer, she must stop. The Silence of the Lambs, rated R.
Hello, and welcome to Wake Up Heavy Recollections of Horror. This is Mark Begley, your host. Joining me today are two very good friends of the show, Chris Stachiw from the Kulturecast podcast.
Was she a great big fat person? It was either Mike or I was going to say it. You just happened to pick me first, so.
And Mike White from the Projection Booth podcast.
Your anograms are showing, Doctor.
Also a good line.
Nobody did Tracy Walters' line. On this episode of
Left it for you.
Oh,
yeah.
Great.
You're the one who always says it. That's literally how you sent us the invite for this episode on Google Calendar.
On this episode of Wake Up Heavy, we will be discussing Jonathan Demme's 1991 film The Silence of the Lambs, written by Ted Talley and based on the novel by Thomas Harris. Silence stars Jodie Foster as Clarice Starling, an FBI trainee, Scott Glenn as Special Agent Jack Crawford, Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and Ted Levine as Jame Gumb, a.k.a. Jamie Gumb, a.k.a. John Grant, a.k.a. Jack Gordon, a.k.a. Buffalo Bill. The film follows Starling as she matches wits with Lecter in an attempt to track down a notorious serial killer before he can kill and skin his next victim. The film was a huge financial and critical success and went on to win the Big Five categories at the 1992 Academy Awards. Mike, when was the first time you saw Silence of the Lambs, and what did you think?
I saw this theatrically. I was actually working at a movie theater when this came out. You know, this movie was made for lovers. Came out February 14th, 1991, which is surprising that even by March 92, I think when the Oscars were still in March, that it just swept everything. This was, like you said, a huge hit, was around for months. So not only did I see it theatrically, but then also was seeing it, in aisle checks when I would go in, make sure there were no scofflaws, smoking dope or anything. So I saw the end of this movie probably hundreds of times. It was also interesting, the projectionist who showed this one of the first times screwed up and scratched the soundtrack. So all of the times that it would be really silent in the movie, you would hear the entire time. They never sent it back, never got a new print. We just had a really effed up print through the whole time. Yeah, so I saw this quite a few times. Watching it again for the show, I was surprised because I can't remember the last time I saw it. It just feels like this movie's kind of part of my DNA now.
And Chris, how about you?
Well, so the funny thing I kind of wanted to mention, Mike, I know a time that you talked about this movie because the last time I think I was on any sort of recorded version of anything, so a show like this, would have been for my show with you back in I think, Mark, you and I were talking about this last time we got together, 2016, maybe?
You pulled it up, and I don't remember what the date was.
Yeah, but we did an entire episode of all of the Hannibal movies. That was the last time that you have a recorded, because that's me and you, and that's the only time I've ever talked about this movie. But to your question, Mark, I don't remember the first time I saw this movie. It would have been probably when I was in college, so 2009. Seems like a long time ago now. I remember seeing, admittedly, and I've never talked about this a whole lot, but I kind of want to mention it now to kind of undercut all the cred that I have. I was not one of those people that grew up liking horror movies. I was one of those people that was not afraid to watch horror movies, but it was not something that I went out of my way to watch. And that changed when I was in high school. I was in AP English, and we had a project where they were like, we want you to look at a certain film genre and compare it to literature. And the group that I was in wanted to do horror movies. And I was like, well, no better time than now to just get this out of the way and just deal with it. The first horror movie I ever watched was Nightmare on Elm Street. And then the second horror movie I ever watched was Scream. That kind of sent me down the path of liking horror movies. But this is a movie that I remember seeing previews for as a kid. And I remember it is kind of lodged in my mind because for whatever reason, something about the trailer sticks in my mind. I think it's probably the Buffalo Bill. I don't know. It's everything about the trailer is really effective. When I finally got around to watching it for the first time, I just remember thinking to myself, this movie's not scary at all. Why did I think I was going to be scared by this movie? As I've watched it since, I have really grown to appreciate it. And like Mike mentioned, now it's come up a lot this year outside of this episode. We're almost doing this episode, I kind of feel like, Mark, because it has come up so many times, just out of hand. Mike and I joked about how many times Goodfellas has come up this year, but I would go as far as to say Silence of the Lambs has come up as many times.
Yeah.
Just randomly, especially with like the things you picked, Begley, earlier this year on my show. Mm-hmm. It's come up a lot. I think I agree 100% with you, Mike. It's just part of my film going DNA now, this movie.
Yeah, it came up with the Citizens Band episode. It came up, I think, when we talked about Deranged a little bit. Anytime like Tracy Walter or Jonathan Demme or one of those people pops up, this is the movie that comes to mind pretty quickly. Like Mike, I saw this in the theater and I was looking forward to it because I had read the book not too long. I don't know if it was because the movie was coming out or a few years prior. I think I borrowed it from my brother-in-law. I was looking for Stephen King replacements because, as we've discussed, Chris, I was losing faith in his books after It and after Tommyknockers and after a couple of those later 80s books. And The Silence of the Lamb was a big hit as a book, and it either came to my attention that way or via my brother-in-law. But I read the book, and I know I read the book first because by that point, I was really into movies as well. And if I had read a book that became a movie, I would always play in my head, oh, how are they going to film this part? Especially if it was something difficult or really out there. Think, oh, how are they going to tackle this? Or are they going to tackle this? And the one thing that sticks out for me is the multiple MIGs scene at the beginning. Because I thought there's absolutely no way they're going to show this accurately in the film. So when I saw the movie, saw the multiple MIG scene, they show him flinging his cum on her. I was gobsmacked and couldn't believe it. And I thought, oh
she.
Yeah. They're doing this movie right. I loved it. Got obsessed with the movie, I would say. I probably still have in my rafters issues of all the magazines that came out around release time. Part of it had to do with having a really big crush on Jodie Foster at that time. I was really drawn to her looks in this film. So she was on, I think, Time magazine. I bought that. I think Rolling Stone had a cover with them on it. Film Comment, I know, did an article on it pre-release, I believe. I read all of those. Premiere Magazine, whoever did an article on the film, I bought the magazine. Ended up reading Red Dragon and then seeing Manhunter. And this is a movie that I rented constantly back in the VHS days. I've owned it on physical media, and that's not completely unusual for me, but I don't buy a lot of Blu-rays and DVDs, but I have this. I have probably watched it this year alone 4 or 5 times. And one of those last times, it just kind of popped in my head. We've talked about this so much, Chris, like you say, off podcast or even in context of other podcast episodes. I thought, you know what, let's get the gang together and talk about this one because it is one of my all-time favorite movies. And one of those movies that you can maybe toss around the thought of a perfect film, although I do have issues with the finale. It's one of those comfort movies. It just moves so effortlessly that even at 1 minute under 2 hours, it just breezes by. That's one of its biggest strengths.
The last time we talked about this, Mr. Mike White, was 2016.
Yeah, I was just looking that up.
I mean, that's a whole 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of viewings of this movie. And the funny thing is, you mentioned this, Mark. I had not read the book until this year. I've been reading a lot this year, and it was just on script. And I was like, yeah, why not? It's like 10 hours. I listened to the thing in one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't stop listening to it because it's so compelling. When you're watching something that you know, or reading or listening to something that you know is being turned into or is a movie, you're always kind of trying to figure out where this is going to work, how this is going to work, if it's going to work, or how close it is to what they present on screen. It's like 1 for 1 from the book to the movie. It's shocking.
It's a great adaptation. I mean, there's a couple differences here and there, but they are minimal.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think, because the audiobook, I listened to that as well. It's 10 hours, and they squeeze it down to 2, but it doesn't feel like you're missing anything.
Mm-mm.
No. And the stuff that you are missing, quote unquote, I'm not sure it would serve the film's narrative because the film is telling a different story. It's focusing on a different character. I think the book's focus is clearly more, I would say 50-50 Buffalo Bill and Clarice. And the movie is much more like 75% Clarice, 25% Buffalo Bill, which works because I don't think when this film came out, and to some extent now, I don't think that the character of Buffalo Bill is one that's easy to adapt in a way that's not going to ruffle people's feathers. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't ruffle people's feathers, but it takes a deft hand to approach it the way the book does. But the book's given 400 pages to do so. A movie is going to be a much harder sell. TV show, obviously we'll talk about it, isn't much easier sell, I think, for a character that's as kind of nuanced as the Buffalo Bill character in the book is.
I was very happy with some of the decisions that were made when it came to the adaptation, especially when it comes to some of the things like Senator Martin and when she visits Catherine's apartment, and you've got that whole thing about Clarice. Possibly they kind of imply that they think that she ripped off the jewelry that was being kept in the fake cabbage in the fridge. And then that weird thing of how she finds those naked pictures of Catherine in I think it might also be in the music box. And they never really follow up on that. They talk about like, oh, there was a man in the pictures and he had an appendectomy scar. So we'll have to see if the boyfriend has that. And they never follow up on that. Making that Federica Bimmel and having the whole thing with the naked pictures and stuff, that leads to this, oh, she had this relationship with Buffalo Bill, and that's how these pictures got taken, really becomes more of that whole coveting thing. And I thought it was a really smart move to switch that around and make that Frederica rather than Catherine, and just leaving us up in the air with what happened with those photographs.
Okay, I'm not crazy then. I was thinking, I was like, okay, I know I read a lot this year, but I thought there was a book that I read where a character finds pictures in a music box, but okay, it didn't make any sense in the book.
No, it was very smart of Talley to move that around.
Completely throwaway.
Exactly. And it also really plays into this idea of Clarice Starling using her femininity and being able to look at things in a way that these male agents can't look at things, and being able to go into Frederica Bimmel's apartment, her bedroom, and her father saying like, oh, they've been over everything so many times. Clarice is the one that knows, oh, if I was this girl, I would keep something stashed away in this spot, and is able to get those photos and get more information than anybody else has. And then also able to see the back of Frederica's dress and see those patterns and make that connection with that dead body that they fished out of the Elk River and go, boom, I got it now.
I would say it's the culmination of the underlying theme of the movie. The success of Jonathan Demme's film is that it's a very like pro-feminist film in a very quiet way, and not like quiet as in like doesn't feel like it can be loud about it, but it's done in a very tactful way. They show a lot of these scenes where, you know, you see the height disparity between Clarice and the other agents, the scene where she's in the elevator. Anytime she's being perceived by any of the male characters in the movie, it's negative, essentially, or there is some sort of derogatory thing attached to it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of really uncomfortable scenes in the movie because of her being a small female actor. But then you have, like you said, the scene where she's in the room and only she's going to get that because of who she is. And then I would even wager that the real climax and kind of the coming to fruition or the payoff of her being a female agent with the wherewithal to understand that gives her power in every situation is that Buffalo Bill doesn't kill her immediately. If it had been a male agent who had gone in there, he would have killed him immediately. That's what ends up saving her in the end. The only way a agent was going to catch Buffalo Bill, the way he was caught was if killed was if it was a female agent, and it was her. Because he would have killed a male agent because he didn't have any issue with it.
And he wouldn't have gone after the male agent's hair. Because when he sees Clarice in the book, it's just like, oh, I could use her hair. She's got very pretty hair.
Yeah. Yep. But that's what feeds into the Buffalo Bill character more in the book. And that's why that character is, Mark, you brought this up last time we talked, the whole thing about him seeing his mom in those tapes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And that's nowhere in the movie because again, like that's not the story the movie's telling. It's a Clarice movie. And that's because, well, you also have Jodie Foster. So probably better to give her the lion's share of the movie anyways.
And it goes towards that idea that we've shared on different episodes about different movies about knowing too much or being fed too much. I don't really need to know about Buffalo Bill's childhood.
No.
Their stories kind of parallel each other, where they're both technically orphaned and how they've obviously grown up very differently because of that. But I don't really need to know all that. I think it may have helped a little bit with the controversy that the film had then and still holds. There are still issues with
the transness.
Transness and the homosexuality.
It's kind of trans baiting in a way. It's the way it feels like.
And I don't know how successful it is in the book either, not being a trans male or trans female, that it's explained much more explicitly in the book. All the Johns Hopkins stuff is taken out of the movie. That scene where Crawford is getting the phone call from Roger Corman, the head of the FBI, that's supposed to be in Johns Hopkins. There's a deleted scene that shows him talking to the doctor that's taken basically word for word from the book. They cut that out, I think, to tighten that narrative to be more focused on Jodie Foster. But it does say, like, hey, man, you can't put this out there in any way, shape, or form that this is a transvestite or transsexual, because he's not. And this is going to damage this already really severely damaged group. Ended up being an issue for the film. I think people still have issue with it.
I think they should have left it in the movie.
Part of it, too, was that just the year prior, I think it was, with Basic Instinct, the whole idea of the gay killer. So I think had we had one or the other, but to have both and for them to be pretty much back to back, it was a little too much. Because I think there's 2 lines in the finished film, which is transsexuals are very passive, and then Lecter saying, Billy's not a transsexual, though he thinks that he is. Like, for me, that was enough, where I was just like, okay.
His pathology is much more horrifying, is what it says. Like,
Exactly. So it's like, okay, it just kind of explained it away a little bit.
The otherness does not need to be vilified, and that's the way it's meant to be. In a lot of other movies, Silence of the Lambs is not doing that.
Right.
They're not saying because he is trans, he is a killer. There are plenty of other movies that do that. I am bisexual. I am not trans, so I can't speak to the trans part of it. But for me as a gay man, like, the problem is he is such a awful thing on his own. To classify him as anything else, that's the problem. He's just a serial killer. That's what he is.
Well, and they also code him as a Nazi at one point.
Right. Jesus
like
Christ.
A flyer up, and then he's got swastikas all over his bedspread.
My daughter was like, was that a swastika? And I said, yeah, there's been a couple. They're on his bedspread. And
really are playing with that.
And it follows that tradition, though, I think, of either the psycho or the bent character being coded as gay all the way back to film noir. Hitchcock does it repeatedly. Martin Landau in North by Northwest, Norman Bates.
Lane DeLon and fucking Red Sun. It's like you are being coded as a gay character.
I totally get it. I don't know if with those extra scenes at Johns Hopkins, if that would assuage that anger.
At least it would have been upfront and honest about it. The book is pretty explicit.
I took it at its word, though, like you did, Mike. Maybe because I had read the book, they explained very explicitly that that's not what he is. He just hates himself. I've known people like this that hate their own self so much that they try to be so many different things. He is stuck on, and maybe if there had been a little bit of the background of he's actually trying to become his mom and not just a woman, he's trying to become one particular woman because that's what he's fixated on. You know, that might have helped a little too. It's interesting to me, the one thing in the extras that I have on my crappy old DVD where Ted Levine was like, I never played this as a gay character.
Right.
Which is sort of irrelevant in a way because it makes me think of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, where that was, you know, had all this homosexual stuff added to it and nobody realized except the gay actor that was playing the lead part. It's like, you don't have to play it that way. If it's written that way or if the subtext is there, you're going to be seen that way. And I kind of disagree with his own comments because there are times where he's swishy or speaks in a femme affect, and then there are times he isn't. When he answers the door at the end of the film to Clarice, he seems like a guy with maybe a hair lip or something.
I've always thought that when Catherine is screaming and he starts to scream at her and he's mocking her, the way that he pulls at his t-shirt makes it look like he's got breasts.
That's the point, like, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, and of course, the whole tucking scene. I mean, that's one of the most infamous scenes that there is. You never hear Goodbye Horses without thinking of that.
No, you don't. I love Q Lazarus' Goodbye Horses for that. You know what would be an interesting double feature? It's another movie that kind of catches some flack for one of its main characters, Hedwig. Because there's a whole thing about at the end of Hedwig, the whole destruction and recreation of the Hedwig character being seen as like the straight washing of trans characters and trans people. But that's the thing, like, Hedwig's not a trans character. It's like pretty explicitly not, like with Buffalo Bill. Like, Hedwig is a gay man who had to deal with forced feminization. That doesn't make you trans. Trans is an identity that people who are trans identify as. And that's why in Hedwig, it's like, but he's not, it's missing. It's like in this movie, it's like they say he's not trans. Therefore, he's not trans. He's not presented as a trans character. He's presented as a troubled character. That's what he's presented as.
Right.
And same with Hedwig. It's like Hedwig is a very confused gay man who had forced feminization put upon him to get out of East Berlin. It's important to understand the way these things are presented in the context of the narrative. That's ultimately, in my mind, what's dictating a lot of this is the way it's presented, not me saying, well, because I believe it's a trans character and the narrative has told me over and over it's not, it must. That's not the intent of the filmmaker or Thomas Harris, even, clearly.
I always feel that Demme kind of swung too far the other way with his follow-up film, Philadelphia, because it's just like, no, gay people are great. Look at, I'm going to make this really terrible movie about this gay character.
And cast heterosexual actors in the roles.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, we've talked about Demme in the past, specifically with Citizens Band, and it's come up a few other times, and I will count this as one of my top 10 movies of all time, but I still have never dug very deeply into his catalog. It's the one film, and we talked about this with Citizens Band, where you don't get a real distinct style from him, and maybe it's just because I haven't seen that many. I know I've seen Something Wild a couple of times when I was younger, probably because of this film. I probably got into Jonathan Demme for a hot minute, and really like Something Wild. I mean, Stop Making Sense is one of the best concert films of all time. Totally different.
You can see Stop Making Sense in this movie from time to time with the lighting and some of the shots.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, I love Stop Making Sense. Talking Heads is my favorite band. The album alone is amazing, but that movie it's a concert movie, but it's so much more than that.
Oh, yeah.
But you can see those kind of lighting influences that he's playing around with in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the close-up work, too, in this movie. There's a lot. Jonathan Demme's doing a lot of close-ups in Stop Making Sense as well.
And they're those very particular close-ups. And that's really the reason why I dislike Philadelphia, is because he overdoes it with those close-ups, that straight-on close-up. And I had forgotten how much they were in silence until I rewatched it the other day. And I was like, oh, shit, he's doing this a ton. But luckily, he doesn't overdo it, or at least as the movie goes on, I get used to it. But in Philadelphia, I never got used to it. Just that straight ahead. Like once I get to the scene with Ardelia and Clarice, where they're talking about the case file and don't these look desperately random, that is very much that straight on close up. But there's a lot of times where he's using the close up in a better way, in that it is almost a POV shot of Clarice looking at, Dr. Chilton, or looking at Hannibal Lecter, and she's in control of the gaze by doing that. And when they cut back to her, she's not in that close-up. It isn't until they actually are doing the whole quid pro quo thing that you start to get into the Clarice close-ups. But for the most part, she's not in that Jonathan Demme close-up.
I think it was a point in that film comment article, or in one of the other articles I read, where in every scene there is a Clarice POV shot, and as well as a shot of someone looking directly at her. Mm-hmm. So you get that from the first scene where she's interacting with Crawford. And then every scene after that, when she's interacting with someone, you get a basically fourth wall stare from the other character into her eyes, so that we are Clarice for the movie. Yeah. And you also have a POV shot from her point of view. Well, redundant there, but
like especially in the funeral home when she's going up towards the casket, and then we cut back to the flashback, and having the flashbacks is important for us to also sympathize with her. But having those POV shots, putting us in her space, making us feel stared at like by that awful Dr. Chilton. I mean, I think Anthony Heald's performance is probably one of the best things ever.
Yes.
And you just hate him so much. It's so great. Having us be that focus of attention by all of these men puts us in this uncomfortable position, which she's in throughout her entire life.
And that's why I said the whole, it's a very quiet feminist movie. Because it's really presented from Jodie Foster's POV, like you said, Mark, throughout the movie. There are very few, if any, female characters other than Jodie Foster and her friend at the FBI. And I guess there's a couple others.
You get the senator and Catherine Martin. Yeah, right. Very minor characters. You get barely any of them. And then Frederica's friend. I mean, but yeah, it's very, very few females.
Friend who's written like such a fucking rube.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The actual rube, as promised, is here now.
She's great.
I love her. Yeah.
And then you have the two father figures in the movie too.
They're all father. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Right.
Every man.
Right.
Yeah.
But the two big ones are the Scott Glenn and Anthony Hopkins.
The good father and bad father.
Yeah. I love how they give the moment where Anthony Hopkins and Clarice physically touch, the one and only time we see them touch, and then they linger on it when she does it with Scott Glenn and Jodie Foster do it at the end of the movie. They linger as well in both of those scenes. It's just, oh my God. This movie's brimming with style in a way these kinds of movies normally are not.
And both of those scenes, or at least the finger touch, is directly from the book as well. I was surprised when I reread it that it was written that way, as, you know, a lingering touch when she grabs the file back. But those close-ups I really noticed last night were interesting with the Lecter character, how I think it's the second time she goes back and he's in darkness and she's sitting on the ground and he's actually turned his head from her, where we're getting his reactions to her story, and you feel that at some point he says,
"You're very frank, Clarice. I think it would be quite something to know you in private life."
But you get that with that close-up of everything that she's saying, he's believing and finding interesting. And so are we, even though we're not looking at her. All we're doing is hearing her story.
The one moment that I really appreciate, speaking of quiet feminism, is when Crawford realizes that he has made her mad. That whole thing about, it really burned you up when I talked to those sheriff's deputies back there. And the way that she's just like, you set an example. By you doing this, you set a bad example. And when he's just like, okay, point taken.
Cops look at you to see how to act. Matters.
Point taken.
Okay, that's a really good character bonding moment. Just that those two can have that very frank conversation, and that she can call him on his bullshit, as far as like, don't do that around women agents because you are undermining us. And I really appreciated that. And speaking of point of view shots, when she's trying to get those sheriff's deputies out of that back room, and she's just doing that like, come on now, and she's really laying on the accent and stuff, and you get that shot of all at her like she's got three heads, and then finally they start to break up and go out of the room. Really like that. And I like how, again, you feel that is her point of view, and you're just like, wow, look at all these guys and their sheriff's accoutrement, and I feel very uncomfortable, and I'm sure she feels so much worse.
One of the scenes that I picked up on, again, it's weird to call a movie where the main gist is a guy's killing women a feminist movie. That scene where it's kind of, there's these kind of montage scenes where they're, showing her going through training, and they bust into a room, and the FBI trainer is only hassling her. The man who breaks in before her, he's hey, good job. And then he looks at her and he's like, you didn't do a very good job. You need to do a better job next time. And it's like,
no, she didn't look in the corner, though. She's dead.
Neither did he.
Starling, where's your danger area?
In the corner, sir.
Did you check the corner?
No, sir.
That's the reason you're dead.
I think that was her point, though. That was her point to look at. She was the corner point.
Yeah.
It adds in my mind to, again, it's just the movie is doing a very good job of showing how out of place the women are made to feel in the FBI.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Every time she's in public, or when her and Ardelia are running the course, the guy's all rubberneck.
Turn and look, yeah.
She's walking through the airport, and there's that one very obvious guy in a big raincoat, business suit, just, crane. And we've all seen people do this, and maybe we've done it in our lives. I don't know. I probably have when I was younger. Every place she goes, the scene in the funeral home, Mike, like you mentioned, Dr. Chilton, of course.
We get a lot of detectives here, but I must say I can't ever remember one as attractive.
Back to that funeral home scene, I love it when she gets them out finally, and you see a little smile at the corner of that sheriff's mouth, like, okay, this girl might be able to handle herself. Jack Crawford is obviously very happy with how she dealt with that, too.
I am so curious if there was more to that dude at the airport, because he gets a credit at the end. I believe this is the guy. There is a man in the credits who is Airport Flirt, played by Steve Wyatt. I noticed that the other day when I was rewatching the film, and I was just like, okay, the only thing I can think of is it's that guy who's rubbernecking. He doesn't have a line. He's just there. I wonder if there's a little bit more to that, but we didn't see it in the deleted scenes.
I've seen some like stills of some stuff with the climax of the movie being a little different. I've seen some stills of that.
There's a little extra,
but it's not in the deleted
interaction
scenes.
with them when she first comes in. They talk a little bit. I didn't get back to the extras I had hoped to. I just ran out of time this week with all that's going on here, and they talk a little bit more. And I think it might be in reference to some stuff that has happened that's also been cut out. There's 2 weird shots in the film. At that point, they do a weird cutaway to outside his house and do a pan across the railroad tracks.
That is a weird shot. Yeah, I noticed that the other day.
Why do we do this cutaway here?
Yeah.
And I think it's to maybe give a little bit of time so that she gets in the house and they cut out that little bit of conversation. But my daughter made a good point last night. She's like, oh, see, it's a different brick house. So it may have been to establish actually she's at a different location. When I first saw the movie, because I don't think the book crosscuts like they ended up doing.
No. And I've always thought that was kind of cheap myself. But
I like it. I love it. I still love it. There's a new movie, Chris, that you've probably watched because we were going to chat about it, not for your show, but there's a recent horror movie that does the same thing at the end with cops going into a house and it being empty and the action happening at another location. My daughter, who I watched that one with, was like, oh, it's like... And I said, yep, I think this is where they got that from.
Mike, I agree it feels cheap, but this is like the one time I might contend it kind of works.
It kind of works, especially with the cross-cut buzzing of the doorbell and the alarm downstairs. Yeah, I still am just like, that kind of irks me.
I'm with you. When he opens the door and sees her, it works because that moment is such a good reveal. Because you realize, like, oh no, she's there by herself.
Right. Yeah, it does give you panic, yeah.
I think that hits a little bit harder. And I understand, like, if they just showed the SWAT team breaking in and then saying the house is empty, and then it would have cut to, him opening the door to her, and you realize the same thing. But I kind of like the trick in this one.
They fucking commit to it big time.
They sure do.
It wasn't originally edited that way. It was, I think the editor said, this might need to be cross-cut. And they were like, okay, let's do that. I've always gotten a kick out of it. It was fun watching it with my daughter last night to see if she was going to catch on to that. Because we had watched a movie that was very similar not that long ago.
I don't know what movie you're talking about.
I'll tell you after. I don't want to say it out loud because it's a new movie and that's sort of a spoiler for the end.
Oh, okay. The other thing I noticed rewatching the movie this time, and again, I kind of feel like I notice this every time, he's so much in Red Dragon. It's so funny how little Anthony Hopkins is in this movie. I know everybody says it every time they watch it. If you've seen this movie, you remembered how much he's in it by like twice as much. Every time I watch this movie, I think he's in this twice as much as he is. I'm always like, oh, he's in it like 7 or 8 times. And he's in it like 4 times, essentially.
But it's so powerful every single time that he's on screen. His figure looms over this entire film. I mean, it's amazing. I'm trying to remember how many times Will Graham visits him in Red Dragon. He doesn't loom. Yeah, but he doesn't loom over the whole movie like he does in this one. And I don't know if that's just where he comes in or the effectiveness or if it's just having Brian Cox versus Anthony Hopkins, because I love Brian Cox, but they play these roles very, very differently. It's kind of like Comparative versus Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah. Totally different interpretation of the character. Anthony Hopkins, just even from the first moment that you see him, when he's just standing there, you're expecting that you're going to come around that corner and there's going to be some sort of vicious monster. We've heard all of these horror stories about him. We just heard the story about how his pulse didn't go above 80 when he was eating this nurse's tongue. You go around that corner and you see him and he's just standing right there in that very proper jumpsuit. Just, how nice to meet you. That's the best surprise / reveal that you can possibly do.
Identification, please.
Yes.
So Closer.
Closer, please.
I myself cannot.
I always found that odd. You can tell that she wears L'air de Tom every once in a while, but you can't smell that? That seems strange to me. I don't know. I don't buy that. It's got a very astute nose.
Olfactory senses.
Yes, olfactory senses. So
well, and in Red Dragon, they show that he can hear really well, too.
Right.
Which Red Dragon is technically also a prequel to this movie specifically. It's a prequel.
Right.
I do appreciate that about Red Dragon.
It's kind of funny, though, when I watched Red Dragon the other day, I thought, oh, did they squeeze him in the same jumpsuit? Because, man, he's pushing the buttons on, or the zipper on it now.
Yeah.
However many years later that was. Like 10 or 11 years later.
Yeah, I just disagree with the idea that you had to make Red Dragon.
Yeah, and it felt like he was mimicking his own, not mimicking it, but he couldn't quite get there. It's so distinctive, that weird accent that he does.
He's never been able to do it again.
His line delivery, and in Hannibal, it's just non-existent. But even in Red Dragon, it felt like he was imitating himself in that. It's so effective in Silence of the Lambs.
I was reading the Devil's Advocate book about Silence of the Lambs, and the author made this very distinct point. I'm wondering if the author was British, because he just kept talking about the Welsh Anthony Hopkins versus the Scottish Brian Cox, and how Hopkins plays Lecter with an American accent. I'm like, that's not an American accent, dude.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's not even like a North Atlantic type of accent, because there are times where he will slip into another accent, like when he says fine Chianti, and I'm just like, are you making fun of how Americans would say a Chianti kind of thing? But it's really weird. And then sometimes he'll slip into the West Virginia accent just to make fun of Clarice.
Well scrubbed rude.
The way that he speaks is not an American accent to me whatsoever.
See, and I remember reading that he was doing a Baltimore accent.
Wow.
He studied, and so I know very little.
I know a lot of Baltimore people, and they don't say that, but
I just know John Waters, and I can't, I'm not making the connection there. So
when a person says the word saw, they'll tend to do like Saul. I'm like, what? But when I talk with Skiz, there's certain words that where I'm just like, what are you saying? Even all these years later, I'm still amazed by that accent.
Did it work with the coal? Did it smell like the lamp?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No.
It's so good, though.
Oh,
yeah, well, and that's the thing.
Whatever it is, the affect is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good he couldn't do it again.
Right. I
mean, that's the problem.
It's a very particular moment.
And that's the thing. Everybody talks about how good Anthony Hopkins is. And yes, Anthony Hopkins is good, but Mads Mikkelsen is the definitive interpretation of Hannibal Lecter. I'm sorry. But that's because you're given 3 seasons of a show. It's not him doing this. He's not doing that. It is more akin to the character as he's described through other people, because it takes place all before this. So it's not Hannibal in jail. You see that very late in the show with the way the book describes the character and what he was doing before he was caught. That show does a very good interpretation of that. I mean, you could say that these are the same character, but Anthony Hopkins can't even figure out how to do the same character from movie to movie, because it's such a specific thing. It's just, I don't think it's Brett Ratner. I'm not sure it's Jonathan Demme. I think it's just Anthony Hopkins hit upon something that was hard to replicate.
It might have been
Ridley Scott. Could be the dialogue coach.
Yeah. Chris, you and I talked about this a little bit off podcast last time we recorded, and one of the other changes that happens from book to film is she's characterized a lot differently in the book, and it's interesting to me the changes that Jodie Foster made. She's a little more angry in the book, at least in this one. I haven't read Hannibal, but Julianne Moore does play her angrier in that movie as well. She's less courteous to a lot of the people that she encounters. She takes Chilton to task a few times, and Lecter, and the Pilcher, and the other guy in the museum. She kind of busts balls a little bit more. There's more of an edge to her, which I think they tried to go back to in that show, Clarice. I remember when my wife and I were watching, I was like, man, she seems pissed off all the time.
I didn't know anybody actually watched that show. I forgot that even existed myself.
We watched it. Yeah, we did.
Do you know what it's about, Mike? It's about Clarice's time after the Buffalo Bill case.
Oh, is it like between that and then Hannibal?
Yeah.
Does Hannibal even exist in that show? I don't think he can.
I'm always confused as to who Paul Krendler is, and I think you guys were talking about this when I got on the Zoom, because he's just very minor in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, I want to say he's from the Justice Department.
Yeah, he's DOJ.
Yeah.
In the book, he kind of takes over the case. Crawford gets busted. She gets busted. I'm sort of happy all that's gone. We don't need all that extraneous stuff of them getting back into it. And so when Paul Krendler shows up, he's in that Clarice show. It's that actor. I can't remember his name. He's in Band of Brothers. Kind of big, hulking, blonde guy with wavy hair.
It's the guy who gets the baseball bat to his head in The Walking Dead.
Michael Cudlitz.
Yes. I'm like, who is he supposed to be? And I had to go back and like, oh, okay. I wouldn't place this as a main character in this story because of the way it's handled in Silence of the Lambs. It's curious to me how Jodie Foster changed this. And in one of the articles, Mike, that you sent over, it was mentioned that maybe they even stripped more of her sexuality away in the film. And it may have been in part because of her own sexuality that happened, where it's a non-issue in the movie. And I really like that. I don't want her and Crawford to hook up. I don't want a scene at the end of the movie where she's out in a cabin with Pilcher. Not that you can't have both, which also may be sort of a problem. Like, she's only interested in this and she can't have a life outside. If you're a woman, you get one or the other. Like when we talked about looking for Mr. Goodbar, she couldn't be a teacher and go out and party at night. She had to be one or the other. And because she was both, she got murdered. Can Clarice not be both? Does she have to be one or the other? Is that what they're getting at? Or is it just, look, this is a female character who's interested in advancement in her chosen profession, and that's what she really works toward? Is that being portrayed as positive or negative or indifferent? I'm not sure what they're going for, but I really like that there's no love interest. It's barely hinted at in the movie with Crawford. I think it comes more from him than from her. She obviously respects him, sees him as a father figure. I like it being more of an asexual film.
Well, Buffalo Bill brings enough sexuality to the party that I don't think you need. I think it would be kind of weird to give her a love interest in this kind of narrative.
It would have had to have been really squeezed in, because one of the things that we talked about before we even got on the air was just how tight this movie is, and how I mentioned a few things that were cut out. This movie moves, man. There is no fat in this movie whatsoever, other than Catherine Martin. We just move very quickly through this whole thing.
And Frederica Bimmel, don't forget.
Yeah, okay.
He's making a suit from women.
Yes.
Jack, his name's Jame Gumb. Jame Gumb. What a terrible name, by the way. It's the best, worst name of all time. Jamie Gumb. Jame Gumb.
You're right, Mike. Watching the deleted scenes, it's one of those cases where you think, this, I get it, but it stops the flow completely. The Johns Hopkins things probably would have been nice, but it's too much away from her. A lot of the other stuff was a little bit extra in a scene that they realized, okay, to get the flow right, this needs to go.
Cutting those lines are just little tiny things from Hannibal Lecter's performance until you just got the perfect amount of him.
With My Own Private Idaho, where those deleted scenes were like way too much. This wasn't way too much, but it was a little too much. It really made the things that stayed in there more impactful. I think when I watched them, I was like, yeah, this isn't a case where it's like, oh, this should have been in here to clarify things, or, oh, that would have been a great scene to watch in the storage facility. So the deleted scenes are her trying to break into the car using a jimmy to get into that door. She has a little jump scare with the mannequin. It's kind of fun, but unnecessary overall. That scene is to get to the head in the jar, to uncover that.
And watching that scene without the Howard Shore music behind it, wow. He brings a lot with that score. Like, as soon as the movie starts and that opening theme started, I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, I forgot how great his music is in this and how much it adds to it.
It's really good because he just gets these kinds of movies. I mean, Howard Shore with this and The Fly, like, just two of like my all-time favorite scores for movies. It's just, yeah, like you said, the moment you hear it, you just know. You know exactly.
You know what you're watching.
Yeah.
I'm really bad, and I've mentioned this to you guys before, I'm really bad about making connections with scores. Every time I watch this movie, I think, what does this remind me of? And then I think, oh, it's just from having watched this so many times. But last night it finally clicked, knowing that he worked with David Cronenberg, got to start with David Cronenberg, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, oh, I finally realized what this reminds me of, especially the opening is the Dead Zone. He uses some motifs from that Dead Zone score. Apologies for breaking in on this episode, but this is a mistake that I have made in the past. Howard Shore did not score David Cronenberg's The Dead Zone. That was by Michael Kamen. However, I do feel that there are some similarities, especially in the main title sections of the score. So first up is the main titles from Silence of the Lambs. And then this is from Kamen's score from The Dead Zone. And you all can let me know if I'm crazy or if they do sound similar.
Before that, he actually worked a lot on Saturday Night Live, of all things. Some of his earliest stuff, he did that Nothing Lasts Forever movie, the one that still isn't available for people to watch, just generally, the one with, gosh, who is it? Zach not Galifianakis, the guy from Gremlins.
Oh, Gallagher?
Yes, thank you. But it's famous for having Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and all these SNL people in there. He did the music for that one, I believe. And then, he went on after SNL to then work with, as you said, Cronenberg, and did all those early scores all the way up past. I can't remember the last time that those two worked together, but he was working with him for a long damn time.
He scored Crimes of the Future, actually.
Okay, so still working with them. And then Chris and I mostly know him from Lord of the Rings and just the amazing job he did with that.
One of the best scores. I think probably the best film score, period. At least for the usage of motifs and light motifs and stuff. There are no scores that do it as well as Lord of the Rings. Nothing comes close.
Mm-hmm.
You know who else likes to use people that they work with a lot? Jonathan Demme in this movie.
Oh, God.
Holy shit.
Let's get to those guys.
Man. I love the crew. I mean, especially since we did talk about Handle with Care / Citizens Band earlier this year. And my wife is just like, oh, who's this guy? And I was like, Charles Napier. And she's like, oh, where have I seen him before? And I'm like, well,
honey.
How much time do you have?
Exactly.
Yeah, he's always a blast to see show up.
He's so good.
Tracy Walter. Yeah, Harry Northup is great. There's a great deleted scene with Harry Northup telling a pigeon to fly away.
Yeah. Harry Northup doesn't even look like the same person in this movie.
It took me forever to realize it was him.
Yeah.
And I finally caught, I'm like, I know this voice. But with the beanie on and the limited time on screen and looking a bit older and rounder.
And then, of course, the one and only Chris Isaac.
What is going... Chris Isaac and his team over at whoever manages his music doesn't like movies that use his music, the trailers being used in podcast trailers and or podcasts on you. I've gotten so many of those strikes from using... I think it was...
Well, stop using his music.
Yeah,
I'm not using his music. I'm using Eyes Wide Shut trailer has his music, and then I think it's a trailer for Lost Highway has his music too. And it was like, you're using his music. It's like, it's in the trailer,
right?
And I don't want to use Chris. I don't want to use that fucking dopey ass music. Why is he in this movie?
Well, he was a friend of Demi's. He was in Married to the Mob. Married to the Mob is one of the most bizarre movies because you watch the entire movie and then they do the credits. And in the credits, there are all of these snippets of deleted scenes. Enough that I think there were 2 movies there. Just, it looks like there's this whole other, and I'm being 100% serious, it looks like there's a whole other movie that was shot in addition to what we ended up seeing. Because you're watching this going, What was that scene? I don't remember that because it looks like they're outtakes from full scenes that happen. And I think he works at like a drive-through or something in that movie. Yeah, he's one of the regular guys that Demme was using for a while. Not as much as, your Kenneth Ut, who was his producer. And I love when Kenneth Ut shows up and stuff. He's got that gray face and oh man,
Lord Almighty.
Oh, so good.
And Tracy Walter, as you mentioned, Chris. I talked over you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love my daughter? I said, one of my favorite people is in this movie. And then I said, there he is in the funeral home scene. She's like, the guy playing the piano? And I was like, yep. I said, I love him. And she could just tell by that quick shot of his face that he was an unusual character actor. And then when he shows up and he started talking, she just looked at me and I was like, it's so good. It's so good, Cleo.
I loved him since the first time I saw him, which I think was Best of the West. Do you guys remember that one?
Best of the West, huh?
Oh boy, that was a TV show from a long time ago where it was like this kind of city slicker guy gets sent out to live in the West. And I think that Tracy Walter was the second in command to, kind of like Bob. He was the second in command to the bad guy in that one. I barely remember anything about that show other than it being not very funny at all. It was one of those like we're tied up and there is a fuse that's burning and the main character, Mr. West, Marshall Sam Best, I think his name is, he somehow his horse pisses on the fuse and puts it out. But of course they can't show that, so he has to use some sort of a simile or a metaphor to kind of say like this is what happened, a euphemism as it were.
Right.
Yes.
I think my first encounter, I probably saw him on some older movies on TV, but my distinct memory of him is with Repo Man. And he's given a lot more to do in that movie than in most others. I just remember thinking, who is this guy and why is he so amazing?
Suppose you're thinking about a plate of shrimp.
But his little line delivery, I'll just insert a clip, Chris, unless you want to give it a shot. Or someone else.
Sometimes.
When a body comes out of the water, sometimes there's like leaves and things in there. I know I messed it up, so I'll just include the clip here.
It's such a specific character.
I mean,
and his voice is just, if you hear that without even seeing the TV, you know who's on there.
When a body comes out of the water, lots of times there's like leaves and things in the mouth.
And that's the other thing that the movie doesn't do that the book does, which is really reinforce that this part of the world with these folks is where Jodie Foster came from.
Exactly. Elk River, pure West Virginia.
I didn't even make that connection until last night. Going, wait a minute.
They never mentioned
She's West Virginian.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And Belvedere, Ohio is Eastern Ohio, which is West Virginia.
That's another good reason why Crawford's using her.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because it's her part of the world.
Point. Yeah.
They never make a point of it. It's a thing that's just subtext.
If it takes me 25 viewings to finally realize that, that's okay. I had an aha moment last night and I enjoyed that. I could still do that. That's the one thing that always confused me about this movie, and I tried to pay attention when I read the book, as the geography of the film seems so widespread. And I'm like, how is he doing this? He gets her in Memphis, Tennessee, yet he's holed up in Belvedere, Ohio.
Yeah.
They think he's in Illinois. So in the book, it sort of explains a little bit better. He does travel. We don't get that background. It's just implied. You see on the map, the dots show where they were taken. The arrows show where they were dumped. And it's a pretty wide area. And I think I did a little bit of calculation on Google Maps, like how far is it from Memphis, Tennessee to Belvedere, Ohio. And it's a considerable distance. Some of the other stuff like Baltimore and Quantico and all that stuff I know is all lumped up on the East Coast. We've got I think Georgia in there. We've got West Virginia. We've got Kansas City is mentioned.
Yeah, that's where they get the name from.
Right. So he's moving and trucking around the country, at least.
Because he killed somebody in Kansas City, that's for sure.
The eastern half of it to get his victims. It confused me that they didn't broach that at all in the film. Like, that's a lot of traveling.
I'm so glad that they changed two things from the book. I think there are two anagrams that he used. Oh no, it's in the movie. There are 2 anagrams. There's Louis Friend and Hester Moffat.
Right. One in the book.
One in the book, and the one in the book is terrible. The one in the book is absolutely terrible.
Billy Rubin.
Yeah, because as soon as they said Billy Rubin, I was just like, oh, well, that's what Billy Rubin is. And it's just like, why is nobody hearing Billy Rubin? Like, I thought for sure they'd be like, oh, William Rubin, and they would just keep talking about William Rubin. Mm-hmm. But no, when they say Billy Rubin, I was just like, guys, no one here knows what that is.
They had to have some kind of science training.
I would think so, yeah. It's like, all right.
What?
Billy Rubin is a yellowish pigment that's made when blood cells break down. There's this whole thing in the book about how the chemical equation has basically like CHNO, so like all of these letters that are very close to Dr. Chilton's name. Basically, it's like, oh, this Chilton looks like shit. It's right. Basically the brown coloring and shit comes from Billy Rubin, and so it's like Lecter making fun of Chilton. Very involved, but as soon as it's right. Billy Rubin, I was just like, oh, well, that's the pigment. Okay, I know that. It's tough when you feel smarter than the people in the book, and you're just like, no, you guys should be smarter than me.
Pick up on it now.
Right.
That goes back to the storage facility scene and how she figures that out. It's much more complicated in the book, where it's not his storage facility.
Yeah.
There's no clue like that to it. It's tracking down Raspale, and they're looking for Klaus, the lover of his that Gumb killed, and it's simplified. No, we don't need to include these characters who have no bearing on the story. This was my storage facility. Raspale was my patient. He mentioned Jame Gumb. Jame Gumb killed him. This will help you solve this, not, oh, now we got to find out who these people are. And that was kind of funny, again, watching Red Dragon, where that opening is Lecter getting annoyed with Benjamin Raspel's flute playing in the orchestra. And I didn't make that connection until they mentioned the name later on. I was like, oh, that's the origin of that.
Don't they end up reusing that in Hannibal? Isn't there like a person that doesn't play well in?
Oh, you know what? It's Hannibal. I'm sorry, it's Hannibal.
No,
yes.
but it's in Red Dragon.
No, it is in Red Dragon. Yeah,
it's in Red Dragon.
It's mentioned in Hannibal. It's mentioned.
But I think in the movie they have that. So basically, it's like a recycle kind of thing. Because I know Harris will recycle things, because I got into a huge argument once about the thing with the nurse and when he eats her tongue, because I was like, oh, well, isn't that clever, because that was in Red Dragon, and then they end up using it in Silence of the Lambs. And this person that I was arguing with was like, no, it's in Silence of the Lambs. I was like, no, it's in Red Dragon. Then I had read both books. I was like, oh, he just recycled that story. Okay, this makes sense now.
Almost word for word, because I'm reading Red Dragon right now, and I was like, oh, use the same exact story.
Yeah.
But it kind of made sense, because you think, oh, this is Chilton's favorite story to tell people.
Right.
Like, oh, big man. I thought, oh, that might be a little stab at this character as well. Instead of coming up with a new one, he just repeats this story over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a testament to Anthony Heald as an actor that they cast him twice as Chilton.
And Frankie Faison throughout, 4 movies, I think?
Yeah, he's
Barney?
in 4.
Yeah.
Well, so he's part of he's not Barney in Manhunter, but he is in that film.
Right.
And then he's Barney in the following 3 films. You know who else makes an appearance is, can't remember the actor's name, but not Pilcher, but the other side. It's Roden, I think is his name.
Oh, Paul Lazar, the guy with the funky eye?
No, the other one.
Dan Butler.
Okay.
Yes. Is that Pilcher? I thought Pilcher was the funky eye guy. Anyway.
The funky eye guy shows up in a few of Demme's movies, but I think now we've moved on to talking about the other movies.
Well, not necessarily, but I just wanted to mention that he's also in Manhunter.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, hey. So he's also in 2 of the Hannibal Lecter films. He's one of the forensic guys that Graham goes to in Manhunter and helps solve. I think he's doing the toilet paper roll message
that's
in that
great.
movie.
It's one of my favorite parts. Paul Lazar was in Married to the Mob, the guy with the lazy eye. I love that scene when they're playing chess with the bugs on the table.
Well, do you play it?
Yeah,
my daughter got a big kick out of him. She's like, when he looked up, she's like, oh, my wife was born with the lazy eye, so it's kind of a family joke. at her expense, which she takes part in. My daughter and I kind of looked at each other when they do that close-up of him.
You know who I was most impressed with was Darla, who plays Precious in this film. And she's a great dog actress, and she was in Batman Returns and Pee-wee's Big Adventure and The Burbs. I mean, she had quite a little career going for herself.
That's another thing I mentioned to my daughter. One of those funny facts you end up finding out when the internet comes around. I was like, oh yeah, this little dog she made a good point. She's like, he has a dog? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, why can't a serial killer have a dog? And she's like, well, you know, with that whole thing when they're young, they usually kill animals. And I was like, oh yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah. I read some of Jeff Lindsay's Dexter series, the book that the TV show is based on.
Oh boy.
He really cops a lot from something like Hannibal Lecter. Like, it's like Dexter is pretty much just Hannibal Lecter who doesn't eat people. He's like the smartest guy in the room. He knows it. Hannibal Lecter, they know that he's smart. Dexter has to play it stupid, but he's as smart as Hannibal Lecter. But man, having like read those books now, it's like, Jesus Christ, like you copped directly from this, which is not a bad thing to cop from.
That whole idea of Hannibal killing people that are rude or don't adhere to what he feels are social conventions. That's so Dexter to me.
Yeah, Dexter took it one step further where it's like he's the serial killer hunting other serial killers, but so is Hannibal Lecter. Because he's, you know, even though he's in jail, he's still helping the FBI. And that's the funny thing is that, like, that's why the TV show worked so well, is because it became like the first season was so good because it was just Monster of the Week episodes. And it was just Hannibal's helping them find the serial killer. Because in this world, not the real United States, but the Silence of the Lambs version of the universe, serial killers are just like everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Prolific.
It's like the 70s and 80s in this country just all the time.
I do like, though, that Buffalo Bill isn't a genius, you know, a mad genius. At least we have a representation of what most serial killers are. They may be crafty and they may hone their horrible skills, but they're not all geniuses.
He's a genius when it comes to a sewing machine, though.
Yeah.
Oh, that's for sure.
And holy shit, Ted Levine, right?
Oh, man.
Good Lord. Like, I mean, yeah, Anthony Hopkins is great, and Jodie Foster is great. The role of the movie that if it didn't work, the movie would not work at all was going to be Buffalo Bill. And there are times where you kind of feel for his character, too. Like, it's not, I mean, again, that's probably also informed by the book a little bit. He is written rather black and white in the movie, but not so much in the book. He's still very deeply troubled. But Ted Levine plays it so well. Like, I get why he doesn't want to talk about this movie anymore. Like, I get it.
Yeah, I don't think I was familiar with him before this. Like, I thought he just talked that way.
Right.
And he sort of does,
a little bit.
Yeah. He kind of does.
Feels to me like someone, speaking of Red Dragon, you know, it's someone that has had their soft palate corrected. He sounds like a hair lip to me. It may just be another weird affect like Anthony Hopkins. Like, I'm going to give this guy a fucking strange speaking voice because it's really creepy.
I think it's that.
It's fucking creepy.
Yeah, it is fun. Put the lotion in the fucking basket. Like, ugh. It's like it's dripping. Like, every line is like dripping with like goop from his basement.
And I love that he doesn't refer to Catherine as she, just it. I love the actress that plays Senator Martin. What is her name? Diane Baker, I think it is. She is so great, and I just love her appearance. It's so brief in the movie, but I love when she shows up and just that whole speech of her on the TV and the way that she's saying Catherine's name. And they really took that from the book and just condensed it down into, like, you know, Jodie Foster, I think, is the one that says, like, oh, that's really smart the way that she's using her name. And I was like, yeah, that's nice. It's not somebody else recognizing it. It's actually Clarice that recognizes it.
And actually, the gal that plays Catherine Martin is great.
Brooke Smith is great.
That, when Jodie Foster finally gets there and she's down there, that realistic, like, fuck you, bitch, get down here and save me. Not like he has no respect that she's an F. Who gives a shit who you are?
Right.
Get me the fuck out of here, man. This guy is crazy. I've been down here for however many days. Get me out.
No! Don't you leave me here, you fucking bitch! No!
I remember thinking that felt very authentic, even from the first time watching it. And like I do with my daughter, I always play this game of like, where do you know her from? And she's like, I said, all I had to say was Grey's Anatomy. And she's like, oh, yeah.
Oh, she's in that now?
No, she was in it for a while. My wife has watched, I think, almost all of Grey's Anatomy. So I've seen most of it. And she's a character on there for a number of seasons. As my wife rewatches it, my daughter's caught a lot of them too. So I figured she was familiar with her from that at least.
I think my favorite scene in the movie might be that scene at the end where she goes into the house and she's standing there, and it's like the Columbo moment of the movie because you see the moth and she just goes, oh, but then you see that he can tell too.
Right.
Because he knows before she pulls her gun. That's why he's laughing.
Yeah.
That's why he's like, can I use your phone? Yeah. Yeah. He's like laughing because he's like, the jig is up.
Right.
And I love that because there's so much being played out that is not said. Right. Like very little dialogue needs to be exchanged for you to understand what's going on in that scene.
Well, then the great thing too that, we saw her not check her corners in that montage that you're talking about earlier. And for sure, she's going to fucking check her corners now when she's down in this basement. And when those lights go out, I mean, talking about seeing this at the theater, people are just like, girl, get out of there. There's a lot of talking to the screen at that moment.
Yeah.
Whew.
Don't they make it a point in the book, the clicking of the hammer of the gun? That's the second time they do that, though, because that's a callback to earlier in the book. They don't call back to it in the movie, but I think in the book they have a scene where you hear something about the clicking of the hammer of the gun making noise.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like a big deal that she finds out, she notices it at the end of the book.
I mentioned at the beginning that I have an issue with the finale. For one thing, I think it's a little bit truncated and slightly anticlimactic, but I'm going to go cinema sins on you guys here. The night vision has always bothered me because there are really hard shadows behind her the whole time. And I'm like, well, what else were they supposed to do, Mark? I try to not let it bother me, but it always does. Like, obviously, she plays it very well. Her fumbling around looks genuine. That has always irked me. I know it was the limitations of the time. I don't know what else they could have done to film it so that you could actually see it with that filter on it and not have hard shadows from obviously very bright lighting in the room. But I also think the book explains that clicking thing better, Chris, because that also is like, he's right there. And then why did he do that? I think that's explained as well. His playing with her.
He finds her to be beautiful. He wants to be beautiful like her.
Right. But also that he's toying with her and purposefully pulls the hammer back when he really probably didn't need to. He could have been pulled already, for one thing. He could have done it before he got into the room with her. It gives her the opportunity to spin around and blow him away. That's always felt a little clunky to me.
It's a little cinematic, right?
Yeah.
That's my head explaining it away is because she's a woman. And the book does a very good job of kind of essentially saying, yeah, that is why he's not killing her.
This is a woman. I don't have to worry about it. I'm the alpha male. I can do this and she's not going to get me. I mean, that's part of it too.
Because look at how he's treated women up until this point anyways.
Right.
It's a double-edged sword as to why he doesn't do it.
The only other scene I have an issue with is the cage scene when Lecter gets free. It seems...
He took a long time to hang Charles Napier up there, didn't he?
The whole thing with Pembry and Boyle, and he cuffs Boyle, slams the gate into Pembry, and there's a funky edit in there where he kind of changes positions, like he flies through space into a completely unnatural spot. Again, kind of clunky, but another fantastic scene. That reveal when they show the door and you can see the shadow, you don't quite know what's going on. My daughter was like, oh, she could tell that there was something gnarly behind that door.
Oh, yeah.
Another great line comes from that scene. It's Jim Pembry.
Yeah,
don't do it, damn it.
I love that.
You're looking great. You look real good.
Yeah.
Guy's literally had his face fucking ripped off. You look great. You're gonna be fine.
And I love that character actor that's there. The same guy who I think he was the one that tried to get an autograph from Bela Lugosi and says, "You were always great as Karloff's sidekick in Ed Wood."
You mean not Tim Blake Nelson? Tim Blake Nelson? He kind of looks like Tim Blake Nelson, but he isn't.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, the one that says Sergeant Tate?
Yeah.
That guy? Yeah.
One of my favorite things about that scene is where they set it. So you have all these...
Brett Hinckley.
Yeah, all these fucking yokel cops. I like that. I think it's just so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
Jim Pambry, damn it. Oh, my God.
So good.
Jim Pambry! Talk to him, damn it! That guy's amazing.
Ready when you are, Officer Pembray.
I like the ending of the movie. I know that Hannibal comes after this and, whatever. Mileage will vary with that. But what an effective way to end the movie.
Oh, I love it.
It's just like...
That's not how the book ends, though, is it? Does he go after Chilton on an island? Maybe it does. I know that the whole idea of him getting...
He definitely
plastic surgery
at the party. Yeah, there's much more of the plastic surgery.
He sends Clarice a letter that basically says the same kind of thing. So I don't think that little beautiful moment with seeing Chilton get off plane is in the book. I may be mistaken, though. I
think you're right. There's that whole thing of how he goes to that hotel in Memphis, I think it is. It's right across the street from a surgery place that does rhinoplasty and
he's going to change his face.
Yeah, so he's got the bandage across his nose to help hide him. Yeah, and he steals the car from the guy at the airport.
They mention it in the movie. Yeah, they like killed a tourist. Yeah, because he like takes the tourist identity and stuff. It's way more. Again, the book is 300 plus pages, so they got to fill it with all kinds of things that if it were a TV show, they would have shown it.
To your point, it's done. It's wrapped up so nicely. The changes that Ted Talley makes really, really, really work for a film. I believe this was his first script. I think I got that correctly from the extras on the DVD.
I don't think that you're right on that one.
Okay. I thought they had mentioned that he had maybe written some plays, but he hadn't written a screenplay.
No, he had done the adaptation of White Palace before this.
Oh, okay.
This is his first solo screenplay by himself.
Yeah, maybe he did that after, but White Palace definitely came out before Silence, so I don't know. But then he did like a couple TV movies, and one of them was based on a play. I don't know if that's his play. I don't know his story very well. I would love to reach out to him and talk with him sometime, because he also did what else? Well, White Palace. I fucking love White Palace, and then I'm very curious about the stories behind All the Pretty Horses, the adaptation that he did. And then unfortunately he also did Red Dragon.
I was going to say, though, that's the thing about Red Dragon. I think Red Dragon actually works better than it should have because Ted Talley wrote the screenplay.
Yeah, maybe.
It feels more like Silence of the Lambs than Hannibal does.
Yeah.
That's probably the only reason I give Red Dragon as much credit as I do for not sucking as hard as Hannibal does. Because Hannibal is awful. Period. I've seen it twice. I won't watch it again. Like
I watched it only for this. I watched it once with my wife. I'm like, you remember watching that? She's like, yeah. I had no desire to return to it.
Only thing I liked about it was, why am I blanking on the actor's name? Gary Oldman in that crazy makeup, just his whole thing. It's just like, Gary Oldman, you like to put on funny costumes and makeup, right?
Yeah, there you go. Tiptoes, baby.
Yeah.
And he's pretty good in it, but that's about it.
Yeah.
The story's just, I don't know.
No, it's not good. And that book is so bad they changed the ending for the movie. Because the ending for that book is like bonkers, cuckoo fucking bananas.
Yeah, they go off as a couple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But he has like convinced her that she's his like long dead sister.
I remember when I read the book, and then Andrea read the same book, and when she was done with it, she actually physically threw the book across the room and said, "Get that away from me."
Demon's out.
Yeah, I was like, you liked it that much, huh?
What the problem is Silence of the Lambs is, I think, a perfect movie. Maybe not a perfect book, but like the movie is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Nothing can compare. Not even the book can compare to how good the movie is in a lot of ways, frankly.
I think those changes improve the story.
100%.
Agreed.
The simplifications of some of the things, the combining of maybe a background characters that don't really have much bearing. They become a bigger part of the Hannibal story in future books and in the previous book. For this movie, it's not necessary to know exactly who Benjamin Raspail is.
No.
And that he was a flautist and blah, 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 all this other stuff.
It is like the third time I watched it this year, and it sent me down a rabbit hole earlier this year of going and rewatching some of Hannibal, which, I mean, again, like we kind of touched on it a little bit, and I know you've watched it, Mark, and I really haven't ever had a chance to talk about it on recording, but it really is everything that you could want from Silence of the Lambs and more. Like, it has a good performance from both of the leads. It has good performances from the character actors on the show, and it has some pretty gnarly, challenging gore. And I think that Silence of the Lambs in a lot of ways is the same way. So. Yeah. Is the show have its problems? Yeah, but I think it does a good job of telling. So that's the other thing it does. It tells the Hannibal stories that some of them haven't been told yet. Like, essentially everything that happens in the first season is Garrett Jacob Hobbs, which is mentioned in passing in Silence. I think. No, it's mentioned in Red Dragon in passing. They never get to the Silence of the Lambs stuff because on top of everything else, something we didn't really mention, not that it needs to be mentioned, there's like a whole rights thing with this franchise.
Boy. Yeah.
Because Clarice is owned by one and Hannibal Lecter is owned by somebody else.
Yeah.
And because of that, we never got Clarice in the Hannibal TV show, but because of it, they made a Clarice show without Hannibal.
They only say the psychiatrist or something like that.
I remember after Silence came out, and I probably said this on your episode, Chris, which was my friend Mitch was like, you know, it'd be a great third movie is if Clarice now has to go after Hannibal Lecter and Will Graham helps her out. And like either he's crazy and locked up because Lecter got into his brain, or he's just fucked up from Francis Dollarhide cutting up his face. Having those two together, paired up to catch Lecter, would have been a fantastic thing. But now legally they can't ever do that.
And frankly, I don't understand why that wasn't the book that Thomas Harris wrote.
Yeah.
The story of Hannibal is not an interesting story.
Maybe he was like, well, there's no point in doing that because no one's going to be able to film it.
Right.
It could have been just that simple.
Yeah.
De Laurentiis is the one that owns the Lecter side of that, right?
Yeah.
Because he did Manhunter and Hannibal.
Probably Hannibal Rising. I don't know if he was still alive for that one.
And MGM owns the Clarice Starling thing because of this movie, but Lecter's in this one. So that was the one part that always confused me, is how Lecter was in this. And I know his name is spelled differently in Manhunter.
Yeah, with a K.
Know if that has any bearing on any of it.
Because this was coming out right around the time of, I want to say, Army of Darkness was a little bit after this. This was like when Orion was sinking and De Laurentiis was going through. Yeah.
On the Evil Dead episode.
All of this stuff just got mired in legal problems that have never really been solved.
Well, it's too bad.
Mm-hmm. When I finished Hannibal, I was watching the credits roll by and I saw a De Laurentiis in the credits. And I was like, oh, which one was that? And so I looked it up, and it's at the dinner party scene at the beginning of the film where they're eating Benjamin Raspel's sweetbreads. And she is the mother of Giada De Laurentiis, who is the Food Network.
Yeah, I hear Giada knows how to cook human brains pretty easily.
That was the connection I was going for here. I was like, oh, that's funny because her daughter is a well-known TV chef.
Gourmand.
And hey, that Hannibal TV show had Jose Andres as a culinary consultant. And
I remember being very impressed by all of the
oh my God,
culinary technique that was going on in that show.
The fact that that show was on NBC
still boggles my mind.
It's mind-blowing. It's gorier than this movie is.
Oh yeah, by far. This movie has very little gore. It's mostly psychological and just brief images of things. I look at my Facebook memories every day because I rarely post on Facebook unless it's to post a funny memory from the previous years. And within the last month or so, there have been little postings from like my sister or my wife and I about, oh, we're watching Hannibal right now. Oh my God, oh, you won't believe this tonight's episode and how gross it is and stuff. And I remember thinking every time I watched it, wait, we're watching NBC, right? Not FX or AMC or one of those. And I'm like, I can't believe they got away with this. It's so gory.
It's a wild show, but again, like it's telling the same, in the same vein as the movie. Like it still feels very tonally the same. There's this weird thing about this movie with the lighting, and I'm trying to I've been thinking about it in the last couple days since I watched it. Like the lighting in this movie is so stark. I don't know how it's very clinical. It feels like I don't know how to explain it. It's very stark white constantly.
For me, it's more the production design where you have all that brick in his cell as opposed to that bright white cell and Manhunter. Those earth tones, she's always wearing green.
Yeah.
His blue jumper is very subdued. It's all very subdued. And if you, like, my DVD isn't a very good transfer, so everything is gray. Even the flesh tones, just watching the HD transfer of it now, it seems like everything's really almost towards the gray side. Just seems like one of those fall movies.
Oh, no, for sure. I mean, just the way the movie opens with her out running kind of in the Virginia, I guess it does feel like October or November when the movie is set.
I mean, she's always got a heavy coat on, and you see their breath in many scenes. And that opening shot just reminds me of another technique that's overused in a lot of films these days, but the Steadicam work in this is so fluid and effective, especially in Bill's house where they're going through the different chambers of his basement.
Oh, yeah.
The Steadicam work in that is just amazing. It feels like it is telling part of the story here, where it goes along with the POV shots, where we're moving with her. It takes you into the film itself,
which I appreciate.
It moves you. It holds you in the story as either as Clarice, or you're there right behind her the whole time. You're in peril too, or you're being stared at too, like Mike mentioned.
You know, that's the other thing we kind of didn't mention is this movie ends up getting the Big Five of the Oscars for a quote genre film, unquote. That's unheard of.
Yeah. And like Mike mentioned, being so far removed from Oscar season that people kept it in their minds. I remember being very attuned to that whole thing, like thinking like they would, this will be forgotten by October when the big movies are put out, the Oscar bait is put out. And no, they still got all the nominations. And then watching it, when it happened, like, they won the Big Five. I say Big Five, but I guess it depends on how you look at adapted screenplay. Screenplay is one of the Big Five. So you've got actor, actress, director, and screenplay.
Film. Yeah, a lot of people are just like, horror movies never win. And it's like, well, there was The Exorcist, there was Silence of the Lambs, so maybe we're due for another one of these days.
I mean, they don't win very often, I think. No. I mean, horror movies that win comedies, action films, fucking sci-fi.
Genre films.
Like those things don't win either.
Yeah, true.
That brings up an interesting point, and we can maybe wrap it up with this is this a horror film? It feels like a horror film to me when I'm watching it. If I think about it maybe a little more objectively, I would probably say, it's a police procedural. It's not really a mystery because we know more than our main character knows. Not that it matters, but I'm just curious as to your guys' opinions on that.
It feels like a horror movie to me. I mean, you've got humans as monsters. It feels as much of a horror movie as, say, like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Though this is not a slasher film, I think it has a lot of horror elements. I would say thriller/horror.
I think for me, it's the same answer that I give when I talk about The Exorcist. I think to call it a horror movie is to underserve how important of a film it is in general. I think this movie,
horror films can't be important?
That's true. That's very true.
I think it's more important than it just being a horror movie. I think is my point. Like, to call it a horror movie is to diminish how important it is to more than just horror. You could say, true crime. Like, this is a true crime movie. That's what this is. And true crime has aspects of real life horror, but true crime and horror are two very separate things in a lot of ways. I would say this is a true crime movie, which is a procedural with, because that's the thing, like, it's not scary, but the stuff that it's talking about is upsetting and emotionally upsetting. It's not, the stuff that it's talking about is things that have happened to real people.
Yeah.
It's a true crime movie. But if you want to say a true crime movie is essentially a horror movie plus a thriller, then yeah, it's a horror movie. But it's like The Exorcist. I think The Exorcist is more important than it just being a horror movie. I think it's a horror movie and it's a drama and it's a reflection of faith. To call it just a horror movie, for some people, it's going to make it something that they think they don't need to watch because there's already that derogatory thing associated with horror that's fucking unfair to begin with.
To not call it a horror movie because you don't want people to not watch it, to me, is sort of a backwards stance on that. And it's like, well, there are plenty of important horror movies. It doesn't really matter to me. I've always felt it as a horror movie. I think that horror often pulls from true crime, and Texas Chainsaw was mentioned. We probably brushed on this with Deranged, how a lot of Bill's story is taken from Ed Gein, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Toolbox Killers, Bob Berdella, lots of people.
He's using Ted Bundy techniques.
Gary Heidnick with the dungeon basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
My daughter immediately caught the thing with the cast. She's like, oh, that's Ted Bundy. The one shot that always makes me think I'm watching a horror movie is the doorbell scene. The flower guy rings the doorbell, and he looks up at that big, huge alarm bell. The camera slowly moves up, and there's a weird green light. There's like an electrical storm happening. You're hearing thunder and lightning. And I'm like, what? Am I in Frankenstein's castle all of a sudden?
Totally.
That's totally what it's supposed to be.
That is the one thing that solidifies it as a horror movie to me.
I mean, he is very Dr. Frankenstein. Rather than making the creature, he's making a woman, just like how he made the bride, but he's making himself the woman.
Oh, that was a good one, Mike.
Thank you.
That was a good one.
Very astute.
That has to be what that's in reference to, because that's it. There are some shots in this movie that are strange. That's one of them. That scene where she's sitting in front of Dr. Lecter after the scene in the storage unit is also very strange. She's sitting like up in front of the glass, and he's in the dark, and the lights are off. Like
a lot of space over her head, and she's down there like a little child. And
there are some strange shots in this movie.
The drawer comes out with
crashing
the towel
out
inside.
Yeah.
His scenes are chilling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The second and third visitations with him get creepier.
Once she does what Jack Crawford told her not to do, don't tell him any personal information. Okay, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to tell him some personal information.
I'm going to tell him all my personal information.
Yeah, good luck with that.
My worst childhood memory that has led to years and years of nightmares.
And the title of this film. We didn't even really say anything about Anthony Hopkins, but he's great. What is there to say, really? That hasn't been said umpteenth times, right? Like, he got Best Actor for a performance where he's in the movie for 15 minutes. Like,
that's a good 15 minutes, though, man.
Yeah, but that's my point. Like, you got actor.
Right.
But not supporting actor. Best Actor.
Well, it was like, what was it, Judi Dench in Shakespeare in Love? Was she Best Supporting or Best Actress?
I think supporting.
Okay. But yeah, she's barely in that movie.
Yeah.
He is the center of those 15 minutes that he is in. She is also there and doing a very good job. It never feels like it's only 15 minutes.
No.
That's what I said. You remember he's in this movie twice as much as
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the success of this movie. There are plenty of movies that I have seen that have good roles from great actors, but then you have them in there too much, or the other people aren't good enough to keep up with that actor's performance. This is one of those movies where everything fires correctly on all cylinders. And because it does, you have Anthony Hopkins, who's turning in an amazing performance, one of the best of his career. Jodie Foster turning in one of the best of her career. And everybody's firing on all cylinders, and that's why this movie is as good as it is.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what it is. When you truly capture movie magic, you get a movie like this. And it's just very hard to come by. Clearly, Red Dragon and Hannibal tried.
All of that, plus every character actor that's in there is perfect for the role. I mean, we've talked about a number of them already. You can't imagine anybody else, even in those minor character roles.
Right.
Yeah, the direction, the cinematography, the score, the editing, the pacing of this film, like Mike mentioned, just shoots you right along at basically a 2-hour long movie. Yeah, it's right up there as one of those perfect films.
Yeah, for me, this movie is just like Goodfellas. Mike, when you mentioned the thing where it's like, this movie is just a little bit under 2 hours and doesn't feel like it, Goodfellas is almost 3 and it doesn't feel like it.
Exactly.
And the book is the same way. Like, the book for Goodfellas is almost as long as Silence of the Lambs, and they adapted it. Scorsese and Pileggi adapted it into a movie that works just as, I mean, again, within 2 years, 2 of the best movies I've ever seen come out, Goodfellas and Silence of the Lambs, and they're both adapted from books, and they're both as good or better than the source material. When the source material is that good, your job is both easy and hard, I assume, because they give you so much to work with, but they also give you so much to work with. This is great. I'm glad we talked about this movie. I hadn't thought I would ever have a reason to talk about these movies again. Or at least, I mean, this movie, so.
It is August 2022, so what is happening in the land of the projection booth?
In August, it's kind of a grab bag month. We're talking about a whole bunch of weird films. Black Lizard, talking about the Gumball Rally, Chris's favorite film, The Cannonball Run.
It's true.
We've got.
I saw that in the theater.
Yeah. Oh, you and me both. The Conformist, The Night Porter, and Wise Blood, which I'll be recording here in just a little under 2 hours. So it's going to be a busy one, but hopefully folks will enjoy these episodes.
My wife came home one day and that was on, and she was like, "What in the hell are you watching?" I said, "A really strange movie by John Huston."
Yeah.
With a lot of great actors in it.
Seems to like movies about some strange characters. We talked about Fat City last year. This is kind of along those lines.
Mm-hmm. And Chris, what, other than having me and Mike on your show, what else is going on at the Kulturecast?
Talking about Rutger Hauer movies. Yes. So the one and only. Yeah, I just assumed he was just always like his character from Blade Runner. Shocking. That's not all he can do. He can do much more than that. So if you want to find out what about more that Rutger Hauer can do, go to Kulturecast.com, but Stachiw.com is where you can go for all the things that I work on. Mike and I do some shows together. Columbo, Barney Miller, Dreams for Sale, Kolchak. There are probably more that I'm forgetting. If not, someone can correct me. But you can find Midnight Viewing. Yeah, there's that. But yeah, you can find all that at Stachiw.com.
Thank you guys for joining me on this, and thank you everybody for listening. You can find me at wakeupheavy.com and linktree/wakeupheavy that will direct you to episodes I've been on with Chris and Mike on their shows, etc. Have a great day, stay cool, and don't forget.
Anything can happen when you wake up heavy.
Silence of the Lambs. Hello, Clarice. It's good to see you again.
I'm looking down the hole, you're looking up at me. You're cold and tired, that is easy to see. Lower the rope to you, a bucket on the line. Your membrane will be soft and smooth, and your heart will be mine. It rubs the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again. It rubs the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again. Yes, precious, it gets the hose. Myself a cap from your right buttock's cheek, and then I will go walking with my little
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.